Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 13 of 360 Anything Goes. And first of all, I just want to say I'm Lance Brock, as always. And this week's episode of 360 Anything Goes. At one time, I wasn't quite sure if it was going to happen or not. If you've been listening to the podcast the rest of the week, my voice has not been the best so far. I still have a voice. Like I have said many times, this year, my allergies and everything else, not just the voice, the coughing, the sneezing, everything has been terrible. Like on Tuesday night, for example, that's the reason I didn't recap NXT, was just because I just kept coughing. And probably if I did try to do the podcast, it probably would have just been me coughing every few minutes. And that definitely would not have been good. Would have been to kept pausing it all the time. Hopefully if I was able to pause it and not just been coughing uncontrollably. But luckily I am here right now for 360 Anything Goes, and hopefully my voice will last. And on this week's episode, I am talking about one of my favorite movies this week. And it's a Disney movie, Remember the Titans, which in my opinion might be one of, if not the best, sports movies of all time. The funny thing is now, at one time, yes, I did watch football. Used to watch the Lions all the time. And even when the Lions weren't on, I would still watch games of the other teams. Just watch either football, hockey, baseball, basketball. And, well, now really the only sport I do watch sometimes is in the Winter Olympics, actually, when curling is on. But, of course, back in the day, I used to watch the Lions, Red Wings, Tigers, Pistons. And I think I even watched some of the Detroit Vipers hockey games, the Detroit Rockers, and the Detroit Neon soccer teams, which is real football, by the way. But, sorry, didn't mean to get distracted. And Remember the Titans. And I was saying, even though I don't watch football these days, it is still one of my favorite movies. And because, yes, it's about high school football in Alexandria, Virginia, but it's kind of more of just a football movie, kind of more, I don't know what they call those ones. I don't know if I would say human interest story, but it's more about race and like that. So this is a Disney movie and based on a true story, which, even though movies that do say they are based on a true story, sometimes they do end up changing a few facts for the film. And I remember a few years or so ago, I did look up Remember the Titans, and I found out that they did change some of the things, and I want to say it's Sunshine, the character that was just added for the movie and wasn't one of the T.C. Williams players that they just added for the movie. Spoiler alert, I know it's early, but I'm sure if you've seen the movie that, Petey calls him Sunshine because he is from California. So he kind of makes it sound like he is. And see, it was directed by Boaz Yakin, I believe, and written by Gregory Allen Howard, and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. I've heard of him. And Chad Oman. Starring in the movie is Denzel Washington as Coach Herman Boone, who I just want to say did an amazing job as playing Coach Boone. I thought Denzel Washington just definitely did a great job. And also starring Will Patton as Coach Bill Yost, who, just like Denzel Washington, I thought he did a great job in this role playing Coach Yost. Just did a phenomenal job in the movie. And I remember at one time, ABC, I think it was, showed back when on Saturday nights, or was it Sundays at the time? Might have been Sundays. They had the Wonderful World of Disney, and they showed Remember the Titans, and they showed some extras, and they showed the real coaches talk about the movie and everything, kind of like a mini documentary about them, which I believe is also on the Remember the Titans DVD, which I have. I was up walking around at Walmart one day. I saw it, and it was only $7.50, I believe. And like I said, it was always one of my favorite movies. So I decided to get it for only $7.50, low price. And now it is also available on Disney Plus for streaming fans. Also, Wood Harris played Julius Campbell, which I'll probably repeat this quite a bit. Just like I said for the other two, I thought he did a great job playing Julius Campbell in this one of the star players of the team, and I thought he just did a really good job. Him and Ryan Hurst, who I'm going to talk about next, who played Gary Brutier, I thought had great chemistry together. I thought they worked really well on the screen as Gary and Julius. And I like the part at the beginning. Well, that's not really Julius, but when they're going to camp and their parents are there and Coach Boone talks to Gary and he says, "What did you say your name was again?" Jerry Lewis, and he talks about Ray. He says, and this must be Dean Martin. He said, Jerry sings the song, or what was it? Jerry makes the jokes, and Dean sings the songs and gets the girl. That's when they're going to camp, and they still have bad attitudes and everything before they start getting along. And Julius, he has some really good lines here. And then they end up becoming best friends on the team. And then Julius is right there when Gary has his car accident at the end. And this is another thing that I saw online, another fact about it, and said that this close friendship between Gary and Julius is, I wouldn't really say made up, but it's kind of like they weren't really, it wasn't really like they were two best friends, or it's like they all were, the whole team was friends, but they made for the movie that Gary and Julius were more closer, had a more of a closer friendship than the other players on the team then. So they just kind of added that for the film. And actually, it kind of reminds me of another old football movie I used to like, and that was Brian's Song, which was about football players Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers, was it? That was another good one. I remember actually I found out about Brian's Song because we read the book in school. Actually, that's how I found out about it. And then we watched the movie, I believe, in school too. And then I think I watched it at home too. So both of these actors did a really good job though in this one. And Donald Faison, I think I'm saying that right, played P.D. Jones, running back. The running back, y'all, like he said. I thought he did a good, really great job of playing P.D. and very funny in this movie. And at one point in the gym, he has his hands up, and Coach Boone goes up to him. He says, "Why you have your hand up?" He says, "Why are you smiling? Football is fun. Football is fun, sir." And Coach Boone just lays into him. And at one point, he does have a bit of a bad attitude. He's taken out of the game. And then, of course, in the championship game, I believe, is it Ray or, not Ray, but Alan or I think it's Alan maybe. He's not doing so good, so he goes over and tells Petey he can go in the game and take his place. And also, he did a lot of acting. I know Clueless, the TV show, not the movie, but he was in the TV show, I believe, for Clueless. And I never watched it, but the TV show Scrubs, I think I saw that he was on there. Like I said, I never actually watched the show, though. So I don't know anything about it. And now on TV these days, I see him on a commercial for home internet from T-Mobile, which he is in that commercial. And again, I thought he played the role of Petey really good in this movie. Really good actor. And we have Craig Kirkwood as Jerry Rev Harris, which, another one, I know I sound like a broken record now probably, but I thought he was a great actor who played this role great, and just another one in this one that did a great job. He was a really nice person who helps Louis, who I'll get to, and with his studies and school and everything. Altogether, just a really nice person. Like I said, he helped out Louis. And speaking of Louis Lastic was played by Ethan Suplee, the big guy, kinda, who you wouldn't really, well, maybe you would expect him to be on the football team. I was going to say you wouldn't expect, but he is a big guy. So actually you might look at him and expect him to be a football player. But he says his family just moved to town and not doing good in school. And Denzel Washington, he tells him to study. Actually, he's the one who also, Coach Boone, I should say, helps him and goes over his tests and stuff like that every week and studies with him to help him improve his grades. So it's Coach Boone too. And Louis, he's one when they really talk about the music in this movie. He sings. He's rooming with Blue, who wears the leopard spotted underwear. That's why when they're eating lunch and Coach Boone wants one of the players to stand up and say something about their roommate of another race. That's what he says. And he says he eats lunch with Jerry Rev Harris. And Boone asks him what kind of music the Rev likes. And he says they both dig the Temptations. And I can't think of the name of the song right now, but it's that one old song that says, I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. Blah, blah, blah. I am definitely not the best singer in the world, so sorry for the singing. Not that it was singing, but I can't think of the name of the song right now, though, but I'm sure most of you listening have heard the song. And that's another thing with, in the movie, there is a lot of older, more kind of classic music, I guess you could call it. Well, it is based from, was it the 70s maybe? I want to say. So, of course, that's why. And another one, just a lot of good music. I know one, well, I'll wait and talk about that. That more has to do with the end, so I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Also, Ethan Suplee, another good actor, who, of course, I'd say probably most famous for his role on Boy Meets World as Frankie the Forcer Sakino, was that his last name, I believe? Played the bully at Corey's school. And to make this, to bring up some pro wrestling in this episode somehow, the character Frankie, his father was none other than Big Van Vader. So even though this is Anything Goes, the podcast where I just talk about anything, I still try to mention pro wrestling somehow in it every episode. And there is my one pro wrestling mention in this episode so far. Luckily I got that. Also, he was in a lot of things. Just off the top of my head, the ones I can think of now, he was on that show. I, again, never really watched it, but My Name is Earl, he was in. And he was also in the movie The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher, which I thought it was pretty good. I haven't seen that one in a long time, but definitely really good. Actor Ethan Suplee. And speaking of Boy Meets World, about maybe a couple months or so ago, I think, he was on Pod Meets World with Daniel Fishel, Roderick Strong, and Will Friedle. Sorry, I think my voice is starting to go a little bit now. I apologize for this terrible voice of mine. Also, Kip Pardue played Ronnie Sunshine Bass, which I said I have read online. Sorry about that. I want to say Sunshine was actually a character that, well, actually he was real, Ronnie Bass. But yes, he was real actually, but I think what they did was, they didn't make up him as a character, but I think they said that they just changed his character, that he didn't really act like the way Sunshine does in the movie, and they kind of just exaggerate that. And we have Ryan Gosling as Alan Bosley, and Ryan Gosling. I'm not sure why, but that voice sounds that name sounds familiar now. It sounds familiar, but is it an actor or a singer now? I'm not sure, but I don't know who that is. The name sounds familiar, but... And Burgess Jenkins as Ray Buds. He definitely has a bad attitude. And doesn't block for Rev. And so finally, Gary actually asked Coach Boone if he could have him kicked off the team because he just was not good for the team at all. He was a bad fit. He had a bad attitude, and like I said, he wasn't blocking when he was supposed to. Just doing a terrible job. And it was on purpose, too. It's not just like he was a bad player. He was hurting the team on purpose. So Gary had him removed from the team. And we have Hayden Panettiere as Cheryl Yost, the daughter of Coach Yost, which I think she went on to actually be in quite a few things and be a pretty good actress. Cheryl has a bit of a sassy attitude, and what is it they call it? Tomboy, when girls like sports and things that are more usually for boys is a tomboy. And at one point, when they go to tell Coach Yost about him losing the coaching job, she gets mad, walks away, but then turns around, kicks the guy in the back of the knee. And during the games, too, she's one of those fans that gets real upset while the game is going on. If they're losing down a little bit, she's having a fit and panicking. And even Herman Boone's daughters with her trying to calm her down there in the stands at the game. And Earl C. Porter, I forgot to talk about him. Sorry. Played Daryl Blue Stanton, which is another good one. Like I said, he was roommates with Louis. And he's another one in the movie that does quite a bit of the singing. He sings that one, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And like I said, the singing and the music is really good in the movie. And there's another song that they play in it, Clearwater Revival. Is it House of the Rising Sun? Old song. My mom has told me before that my uncle, her brother, when he was younger, had a band, used to play that song. Just a really good movie. So basically, it is about T.C. Williams High School, new school that they built in Alexandria, Virginia, which is now known as Alexandria City High. And it was one of the first schools there that would mix white students and black students together. So at the time, a lot of people got upset about that. And so, of course, they combined the two football teams together, and Coach Bill Yost was at the time a real popular high school football coach there in Alexandria, and was even set to go into the Hall of Fame. But when they announced this, I guess you could call merger of the two schools and the football teams, they say they have to bring in Coach Herman Boone as the head coach. Once again, played by Denzel Washington, who did a great job, was phenomenal as Coach Boone. And he does keep Bill Yost on as one of the coaches of the team. I don't remember which one. And Yost had Coach Tyrell with him. He's loyal to him. So he does a favor for him and gets him a job on the team too. But of course he ends up having a bad attitude later on, and he quits the team. And there's a part about halfway in the movie. Well, first though, of course, the players don't get along. The black players and the white players, they don't get along. And then they go to camp, which is Gettysburg. And then eventually they do all learn to get along and play together and even become friends, except for Ray, of course. Which, like I said, eventually Gary ends up removing him from the team, And Coach Boone even has a policy where he doesn't cut anybody. And Gary tells him he knows that's his policy and he respects it. But sometimes you just gotta cut a man loose. And he lets him go. And then there's one point where when they're friends and they go back to town and Sunshine is with Blue, who is it? Yeah, Sunshine, Blue, and I think there's a third one. They go into a restaurant where the guy didn't want Blue in there, and Sunshine, because how he is, definitely not a good man. And so that kind of causes a little bit of an argument there, but nothing real serious. They do end up getting past that. And then they do end up where the white guys on the school board, I think it is, they want them to rig the game. They put some crooked referees in there to throw the game. So, because there was actually a stipulation where if Coach Boone lost one game, or if the team lost one game, I should say, that he would be fired from head coach and Bill Yost would be the coach again. And they try to throw the game, and Yost does end up doing the right thing during the game, calls a timeout, talks to one of the referees, and tells him he knows about everything, about what's going on, and then the referees start calling it fair after that, and they win the game, and they go on to the championship game. And just before it, unfortunately, Gary Bertier is involved in a car accident, and then at this point they show everyone at the hospital, and Gary's mom is there, and the only one that Gary wants to see in his room there with him is Julius, which, like I said, in the movie they kind of sorry about that, they kind of made the storyline where they were the two best friends of the team, and they have, I guess you could call, a heart-to-heart moment here. And with Gary in the hospital, the Titans go on and play the championship game, which this part I think is really good. And they play the game, and they show Gary. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention before I get to the game, Gary's in the hospital and Julius goes in there to see him, and the nurse says, "Excuse me, only Ken allowed." And he says, Gary says, "Are you blind? That's my brother." And during the game, we see Gary in his hospital room watching the game on TV, which, I don't know, well, back then, like I said, high school football was a big deal in Alexandria, and I don't know about now, I haven't watched them in a while, but I know they used to show a lot of the high school football games on like the local cable access. But I don't know, maybe this, since this was a championship game, maybe they showed it on a local TV channel. And he's watching the game, And they win, of course, T.C. Williams. And that is it. And at the end, they show, unfortunately, when Gary passes away when they're older. And when I was talking about music earlier, a lot of good songs. There is one song that they sing during the movie, and they sing at Gary's funeral here, and I'm guessing this is the actual name. Na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye. Which I can't think of who sings it, but if you're also a pro wrestling nerd, I'm sure you have heard fans chant and sing that song before when somebody has to leave, loses a loser leaves town match or something, has to leave for some reason. They sing that song. And then after the movie, they do like when most movies that are based on true stories, they show all the characters and tell them, or they tell us what happened to them. So that was Remember the Titans. Like I said, one of my all-time favorite movies. And if you have not seen it, I definitely recommend it. You should definitely watch it. Like I said, it is on Disney Plus. I know most people watch their movies on streaming services now. But if you want to be old school, you can get the DVD. I'm sure you can probably find that online. Maybe in stores, or like I did. And even then, that was quite a while ago. I found it at Walmart for $7.50. So, Remember the Titans, great movie. Like Siskel and Ebert, I would definitely give this one 2 thumbs up, in my opinion. I remember at the time I used to watch Disney Channel, and during some of the shows, especially Boy Meets World, the connection with Ethan Suplee is there. They would show like quick things, like the making of and behind the scenes, things like that. So just a really good movie. Once again, I recommend checking it out. And that is this week's episode of 360 Anything Goes, episode 14. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Definitely hope to have a episode up next week. Hopefully my voice and everything is better by then. Remember to catch 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hopefully we'll be able to do more episodes of that if I can talk. Also, in just a little bit, actually gonna spoiler alert, I am actually recording this week's episode for the first time. I'm recording it on a Thursday. So in just a little bit, I'll be doing the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. So stay right here on Spreaker or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcasts and check that out. And just keep supporting 360 Wrestling Podcast if you can, please. It'll be very much appreciated. Like I said, hope to be back next week. And as of right now, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about on the next episode of Anything Goes. Could be anything. Could be another movie. could be a TV show. And if I can't think of anything, it'll probably be another Anything Goes episode of Anything Goes. But I don't know. For episode 15, hopefully I'll think of something to talk about. And once again, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you come back next week for Anything Goes. And until then, though, see you later, alligator.